All right, we're on record for the initial disposition as it relates to Mr. Cody Gage. And thank you all for your patience. We're just getting started a little later than expected. We have the names of our participants, please.
Good morning, Nicole Underwood, lawyer guardian ad litem. Brenda Burgess,
the-
foster care worker for the department.
Ms. Sasha Thomas, counsel for the department.
You're up.
Oh, excuse me. Michael Brooks, I represent the father in this matter, Cody Gage. Mr. Gage?
Cody Gage, father of Cody Wayne Gage Jr.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to Ms. Underwood for her report whenever you're ready.
Yes, I was able to meet with Cody Jr. at his placement right before the holidays. He is doing very well where he's at. He's familiar with his placement as it's his former stepmom. For all intents and purposes, he's called her mom anyways. I think she's been that figure for him throughout most of his life. All of his needs are being met. When I went, he was gearing up for Disney, which I believe they just recently got back from, so they're very excited about going there. And he's doing well in school. He's adjusted well. He's a very happy and well-rounded kid. He also indicated that visits with dad were going well, but he wished to stay where he was, and I agree that that's the least
Excuse me, but
restrictive.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I'm sorry. I said that he said visits with his dad were going well, and that he wished to remain with his placement. And I agree that all of his needs are met there. It's in the least restrictive environment, and it continues to serve his best interests.
Okay, testimony this morning, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you. I'll ask Ms. Burgess to be sworn in.
Our witness stand, Ms. Burgess.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Your Honor, just as a point of clarification, I believe this is our first review. We had Dad's initial disposition September 26th.
September 26th?
Yes.
Okay, so this is one of the cases that bounced over to Judge Costello
Yes.
for a bit. So you'll have to forgive me, we're playing a little catch up on some of these cases.
And so the court is aware that I'm not as stupid as I may appear at times. This is, I'm substituting in for Tamara.
Yes, Tamara's Hennigan, yes.
Thank you, Tamara Hannigan.
All right. Gotcha. Okay, well, thank you for that, Ms. Thomas. You can go ahead with any questions you might have with Ms. Burgess.
Thank you. Ms. Burgess, we had an originally scheduled review hearing back in December, for which you did provide a court report. Since your court report was submitted, are there any updates or modifications that need to be made to it for today's hearing?
There's just been a few things. Cody, Mr. Gage has an appointment scheduled for his CMH intake today at 1 o'clock. He did apply for Medicaid and he was denied. He does need some medications, and so, you know, that's why he's going to CMH this afternoon. He has been doing PBTs daily at the Sheriff's Department, and we've been providing him with Visa cards to pay for those. And then also it's been offered to him to do PBTs here at the courthouse if he can do them before 4:20, but due to his work schedule, he hasn't been able to make those. So he has been continuing to go to the Sheriff's Department. I have provided him some tokens for transportation. I believe he has started with Catholic Charities for treatment. And I think those are all the updates I can think of.
Great, thank you for that. And during this review period, so since September, I know that there were some updates that happened, but generally speaking, I guess, how would you describe Mr. Gage, his level of compliance with and benefit from the case service plan?
He's very compliant and, he's, we've met, and we've talked on the phone, and we have talked through any issues or things that he's had. And I think he's just getting started with his services with the holidays. I mean, he was just released from jail at the end of November, and he got employed right away, and he's doing everything he needs to do. And then with the holidays, I think that slowed some appointments down, but other than that, he's doing well.
And as the referral points, I think if I'm remembering correctly, there was a referral needed to be made for psychological. Is there any update on that?
I have not done that referral yet.
Okay. Are you still trying to find a service provider?
I believe I know of one that I'm going to use. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then parenting time. How is that going right now? Or how is that set up right now?
Parenting time takes place at a DHS, and Linda Edwards supervises at parenting time. And that's been going well. While Cody the child was gone on vacation, I believe they've worked around that schedule, and he has a 2-hour visit scheduled for tonight. We had talked about doing video visits during the week, but those haven't started yet.
And is I'm going to refer to her as relative placement. Is relative placement providing transportation to the child from, I believe, the Washington County area down to Adrian?
Yes.
Okay. And I know that at the last hearing there, Mr. Gage had kind of mentioned wanting more parenting time. What are the steps needed to increase parenting time, or what does the department need to see for that to happen?
I think just continuing what Mr. Gage is doing. I think getting his medications, getting on his medications is important. And just seeing a little bit more progress in his service plan. And I guess I have to say that with his work schedule, and then the child being in school, I think we're doing the best that we can. If there's any time that he wants to set up an additional visits, I'd be willing to see if that would work out.
And then as far as the video visits, is there a particular reason it hasn't started, like any barriers? Or is it just a matter of sort of getting the logistics figured out?
Yes, I believe it was due to the holidays, and then they left for Florida soon after that.
Okay. And then is there anything that you'd like to add on to Ms. Underwood's report as it relates to the child's well-being and how he's doing?
No, he's doing very well. All of his needs are being met, and I can't think of anything additional.
And at this point, I don't think we're set for permanency planning hearing. So just to confirm, the goal is reunification, and there's no need to reconsider that at this point. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, I have no further questions of Ms. Burgess, and move to admit the court report and the
Objection.
attachments.
No objection.
Thank you. They are received. Questions for this witness, Mr. Brooks?
Mrs. Burgess, as you've heard, I'm brand new to this case. Knew nothing about Mr. Gage. But reading the report, it wasn't all that complimentary to, are you telling me that my impression reading the report was mistaken? And I have a reason for asking that.
Okay, the report was completed, this report was completed in early December. At that time, he had just gotten out of jail. Of course, we were communicating when he was in jail too. So he has made progress even since this report was written.
He was released sometime in November, is that right?
I believe it was the day before Thanksgiving.
Okay. So on our time scales that we work with, he's really just getting started, right?
Yes,
Now, the man I've met here this morning doesn't sound or act like the man I think I read about in this report. Frankly, he strikes me as a rather approachable and reasonable person. Do you agree with that characterization?
I do.
He has some fundamental issues he has to get put together before he's a serious candidate to get his child back: housing, driver's license, car. All of these things he's working on, to your knowledge, right?
Yes, he is.
And he has a job,
Yes,
and he visits his child,
yes, he does.
and to the extent that services have been made available to him, he's taken advantage of them. Is that true?
That's true.
I have nothing further.
Questions, Ms. Underwood?
You indicated that Mr. Gage does take daily PBTs. Have those all come back as zeros?
All the ones that I have, and I communicated with Darren Cost. And prior to that, Mr. Gage had told me that he was having trouble with the machine. And in fact, on more than one occasion, he was telling me he had trouble with the machine. So I don't have, it looked like there were some missed PBTs in December. I'm not sure if that was because of the machine. Mr. Gage says that the machine is working now better, that it's been serviced and he's not having any problems.
Thank you for that. What would you say should be the top priority for Mr. Gage moving forward and working his case service plan?
Attending his treatment at Catholic Charities and getting his mental health services established, and taking his, being on his medication.
His treatment at Catholic Charities, is that substance use or?
As far as I know, it definitely is substance use disorder treatment, and I haven't confirmed this, but I believe it's gonna include the domestic violence.
That's going to be the next question, so thank you for answering that. I have no further questions.
Are the daily PBTs related to the pending criminal charges? Or is that something you're asking him to do?
He was ordered through probation on those.
So what is the status with the criminal?
I apologize. He's ordered random screens through probation, I believe, and then we required him to be on daily PBTs.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
The department is requesting that he do daily PBTs, although he is ordered through probation, random screens as well.
Are you in contact? What stage is his criminal proceedings at?
He's been sentenced.
Okay, so he's on probation at this point?
Correct.
All right. And do you have a release to communicate with his probation officer to ensure he's in compliance?
Yes.
Okay. Redirect, Ms. Thomas?
Ms. Burgess, just to clarify, I believe that in part of the criminal component, there was, I think, DV and then child abuse. Are there parenting education or parenting programs that are going to be put in place for Mr. Gage as well?
I have given him a list of online parent education classes that will be starting in January, I believe, if he chooses to do those.
Okay. And I know sometimes we do like foster care supportive visitation. Will that be a program offered to him, or is that something that Miss Edwards is working on with him?
I think both. I could do a referral to the foster care supportive visitation. I do know when I spoke with Mr. Gage that he feels like he really has a lot on his plate at this time. So I'm not sure how workable that would be right now.
Okay. I guess I'm more just wondering if Miss Edwards is able to provide any of that. I think like feedback coaching, for appropriate interactions, discipline, redirection. I know that this is an older child, so it's not as prominent, but I was just wondering if that issue is being addressed.
I think she can do that for sure.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Any more questions for this witness, Mr. Brooks?
No,
Ms. Underwood?
No, thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. May I return your seat? Any other witnesses, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks?
is there anything you want the court to know?
Not this time.
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Underwood?
I have no witnesses.
Comments in closing, beginning with Ms. Thomas?
Your Honor, I would just like to commend Mr. Gage for really getting on the ball as soon as he possibly could and being engaged with Ms. Burgess. It's really refreshing to have a parent who is engaged and utilizing the support offered by the department. I know that at the last hearing in December, he really wanted more parenting time, and I'm hopeful that in the next review period, the team can meet together and address how that can be expanded for him and his child. Otherwise, I think that we are at the beginning of the case, and a 90-day review would be best at this time. Thank you.
Comments, Mr. Brooks?
Well, after reading the report, Your Honor, and today meeting Mr. Gage for the first time, it really threw me a curveball. I was not expecting the man I met. This man is open, reasonable, listens. I won't tell you what I said to him, but the long and the short of it is I'm very hopeful this guy is going to do exactly what he's supposed to do, because he is doing it. Thank you.
Ms. Underwood?
I'd also like to commend Mr. Gage for his commitment to improving his situation for the sake of not only himself, but more, just as importantly, his son. I am happy to see the progress that's being made. And I do believe that continuing with parenting time is appropriate at this time, supervised and in minor child's best interest. I would also ask for a 90-day review and encourage, again, the video visits to also get started as soon as possible so that they can at least have an additional point of contact as appropriate. Thank you.
The court finds all interested parties are given notice for purposes of today's review hearing. I do find there are reasonable efforts towards the goal of reunification being made by Ms. Burgess, spearheaded by Ms. Burgess, our caseworker, as well as Ms. Underwood in satisfaction of her obligations as guardian ad litem. I do see progress being made by Mr. Gage on the case services plan, which is good. But there still remains a substantial risk of harm associated with returning the child to his care. He still needs some time to demonstrate compliance with mental health treatment, refrain from some of the issues that brought him into the purview of the court by way of criminal charges, and show us that he's able to provide a safe and stable environment for his child. for a time frame that will allow us to rely on that moving forward on behalf of his son, and especially work on also the parenting skills and some of the skill building necessary for him to understand how these choices affected and will continue to affect his son moving forward. So for all those reasons, the child will remain where he's placed during the next report period. That is the safest and least restrictive. It's a fictive kin placement he's obviously familiar with. Encourage Mr. Gage Senior to continue allowing that to remain in place and not do anything that might compromise that. And we'll have a hearing in 90 days. Let me give you a date. Mr. Gage, is there a time that works better for you or a day based on our work schedule?
Tuesdays, I've made sure I've always taken off Tuesdays to work because of reporting, and I try to get every single thing possible done on those days.
All right, when do you typically report?
I try to be here as soon as I can between 8 and 8:30. I'm usually out by, depending, there's been times that everyone shows up, so it could be like 9:30 by the time I leave here, or by the time I get out of the reporting office.
So 10 o'clock on Tuesday, April 15th, would that work for you? Okay, so we'll do our next review, which will also be a permanency planning hearing, given that the child has been out of the home for a significant period of time, or rather removed from the parent for that period of time necessary for us to have a permanency planning hearing. So we'll look at the case again on Tuesday, April 15th at 10 a.m. Unless there's any questions, that's all for today.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I would like to chat with the attorneys on this one just for a few minutes before you take off today. But I'll do that in the back where